start with the usual. How was your meditation last week? How about you, Doug? You were the first in.
Yeah, I guess I was. Yeah, I had a good week meditating.
Mm-hmm.
It was, except for yesterday. Yesterday I had a song in my head, and
Yes.
and I really had a hard time getting it out, and I never could actually.
Uh-huh. I just laughed. I know. I guess sometimes I have that issue. Carol has that issue more than
A
me.
lot.
Yes. I guess what do you call it? An earworm?
An earworm? Yeah, I think so. And it's funny how I just couldn't get rid of it. And but today, uh, just before we started, I was thinking about that. And now I can't even remember now what the song was.
Ah, that's amazing.
Still shows the power how these thoughts can be fascinating,
Yeah.
interesting. How about you, Cheryl?
I had a great week. I
All
meditated
right.
every day, sometimes twice a day. I'm just
All right.
thrilled to be back.
Yes, that's right. I'm glad to see you kind of filled with energy and juice, and that's good. That's good to see it. How about you, Carol?
It was good. We did several meditations and they were all good. And so, yeah, very good.
Okay. And for you, since you have joined this session, that's been the first time I've heard you say that.
Yeah, the week before was terrible, but you're making me do it. So here we are.
Anyway, very good. Glad to hear that. Let us then, in that case, why don't we do some meditation? And so, meditation, mindfulness is present moment awareness, paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non judgmentally. Feel your breath in and out. Fully receive whatever is there. Then let it go. All right. Where's- Okay, excuse me while I'm just getting things properly set up. So, today I want to talk about going deeper in your meditation. What matters most with meditation is that you keep doing it. There are substantial long term benefits for your brain and your life, but these come with regular practice, like you guys all were doing last week. What kind of regular meditation you do matters less as long as you keep doing it. So find what you enjoy and do more of it. Follow your instincts and trust yourself. And as you start your meditation, smile. This smile on your face reduces tension and eases meditation. The best advice to deepen meditation is for you to love it and surrender to it. Surrender to the long term opening and unfolding in your life. This means sinking into your meditation rather than striving for something more, something different, something besides what you're doing right now. Sink into it. It keeps getting deeper. Surrender to the process and then continue surrendering. As thoughts comes, as insights come, experience them, revel in them, feel the joy of them, and then let them go. I've noticed that even with my most powerful insights, ones that have brought joy and deep internal knowledge, if I try to return to them and bring them back, if I try to recreate them, then they are just like all the other thoughts without the, I don't know the right word, the energy. It's when I first realized it's like these insights come and go on their own. So just let them come and go. This can be your practice for years to come. Continue to meditate each day and sink into it. Basically, to keep on doing what you've learned to do. As you grow, though, different practices may be called for. What's good for one stage in practice may not be what's needed in the next. Be willing to look at your practice. If it's taking you where you want to go, stay with it. If you feel something else bubbling up, be willing to investigate it and to change your practice. As you grow, things change. You may feel it's appropriate to change your practice. Be willing to try new things. You'll know if it's good for you, if it brings you peace and well-being. You'll know. Surrendering is really the key. You can accelerate your practice by relaxing and letting go. Another way to improve your meditation is with some other basic practices. The beginning practice in the Indian systems from which our mindfulness meditation came is called karma yoga. Karma yoga is basically taking care of what you need to do, your duties, and doing selfless action towards others. The idea here is that selfless action towards your own duties and towards others benefits you spiritually, enriches your life, and deepens your practice. These are basically non-ego actions, not done for yourself, but for others. This feels good at the time, and it opens up doors to increasing spiritual depth. When you do this, even though it might benefit you in the long term, do it entirely with the attitude and feeling of freely giving, expecting nothing in return. Here's a Zen story that illustrates this. When, when Sietsu was master of Engaku and Kakamura, he required larger quarters since those in which he was teaching were overcrowded. Umezu Shibai, a merchant of Edo, decided to donate 500 pieces of gold, called ro, towards the construction of a bigger school. This money he brought to the teacher Setsu, who said, "All right, I will take it." Umezu gave Setsu the sack of gold, but he was dissatisfied with the attitude of the teacher. One might live for a whole year on 3 ro, and the merchant had not even been thanked for 500. "In that sack are 500 ro, hinted Umezo. "You told me that before," replied Setsu. "Even if I am a wealthy merchant, 500 ro is a lot of money," said Umezu. "Do you want me to thank you for it?" asked Setsu. "You ought to," replied Umezo. "Why should I?" inquired Setsu. "The giver should be thankful." Now, why did he say that? One way to deepen practice is to find ways to give of yourself where you're not expecting anything back in return, doing something that brings happiness to another without expecting anything back. The Indian idea is this gives you spiritual merit, punya, and when your punya grows, your practice will naturally get deeper. Karma yoga is thought of as an essential preparation for meditation. You have stopped generating bad karma and started to receive the effects of good karma. You meditate more deeply when you have cleaned up your life. So now we'll have a video from Ram Dass entitled, "Why Do We Practice?" Now in this, he is talking about sadhana. That's the Sanskrit word for spiritual practice, for meditation.
there's a matter of timing in sadhana that's important to keep in mind. That I mentioned it a little bit last night, that we tend to overthink. So we often choose a sadhana, a spiritual practice, a little before its time, or before it chooses us, before the marriage works. And we find ourselves in this ought and should predicament, where you start out with great love, and within a little while it's, oh my God, I got to do my practice. And it's like another thing, like washing the dishes. And certainly there is value in doing a practice regularly every day, even when you don't want to do it. Because, especially in meditation practice, because in meditation practice, the not wanting to do it is as much grist for the mill of meditation as wanting to do it. It all is stuff you can work with your mind. That's very beautiful. But the delicate balance that has to go on inside oneself, recognizing that if you build up too much negative tone to your practice, too much resistance, you're going to have a reaction to it that's going to take you away from it for a while, and before you can come back later on. A lot of people were so gung-ho in their spiritual practices early on. I remember in the early 70s that you'd find them 5 years later at the local bars drinking beer and watching television, and talking about how they used to do spiritual practices and how they fell off the path. Now, it isn't really falling off the path, it's just another part of the path, as I said last night. But part of that violent reaction was because of in a way, the impurities with which they did it in the first place. So, my usually guidance is to go slow, is to not get too gung-ho. Don't figure you're going to get enlightened yesterday. Relax. Yesterday. Just start to tune. Now, the other thing is when you say, when I found my practice, you can't assume that the practice you found is the practice that's going to last you for the rest of your life. Because who found that practice is, in the course of the practice, going to change into somebody else. And so the practice that was appropriate for the person initially may not be appropriate for you a little way down the line. So you've got to keep staying open. So you hear all these delicate balances that are going on in you. One is the value of deepening a practice. Like Swami Satchidananda once was criticizing me for being such an eclectic dilettante, and he said, well, you see, he said, you can't just go around digging shallow wells everywhere. You've got to dig a deep well so that you get fresh water. Which is just a metaphor that, and I could counter with, another metaphor that would be equally as sweet for the other argument. But when I watch people over time, what I see is that they start out quite eclectically, and then they get drawn into one practice quite deeply. And then when they come out the other end, like Ramakrishna, then they can do all practices, and they're all the same practice. All right. So it's like a funnel. It goes in, and then it goes out again, or this way, I guess, more appropriate. So my answer is that you go gently. Gurdjieff said an interesting thing. He said that, he was a Russian philosopher, and he said that an alarm clock that'll wake you up one moment, you can sleep right through later on. And he said you need to keep finding new alarm clocks to awaken you, because you can have something that awakens you out of your sleepwalking of normal waking consciousness, and it works one moment, like something you read, and a moment later you're reading it and you're busy planning your shopping list while you're reading it. You've gone completely to sleep in the process of doing it. So all of these are merely variables that you have to keep in mind as you're proceeding with your practice. And in terms of the question of discipline, you've got to work very gently with pressing against it, right effort without turning it into a neurotic achievement game, which we in the West are masters of. We can take something that would be joyful, like I'm going to drive to New Mexico. And within a little while, it's, oh my God, we didn't make enough time today, we've got to go faster. And you take the whole thing that's beautiful and turn it into a hell realm. And so, now, maybe none of you have done that. To me, that's a very familiar thing, of doing that kind of thing, of taking something that is quite delightful. And when you stop and reflect about it, you can take most things in life and turn them back the other way. You can turn them back into, wow, I'm driving in traffic, instead of, oh, God, the traffic. You can just keep flipping your consciousness. You learn how to play with that. Well, the same with spiritual practice. You can keep reinvesting it. And my suggestion is that you have a regular time each day for your practice. And that you say, in effect, I am dedicating this amount I'm spending so much time brushing my teeth. I'm spending so much time going to the toilet. I'm spending so much time feeding my body. I am spending so much time feeding my spirit, awakening into my soul. This is what I'm doing. And this is a time that is sacred. And it's not a time when the telephone can ring, and it's not a time when people can call you. It's a time where you respect your practice enough to say to the people around you, this is my practice time. Now, when you have young children, you can't do that because they can't understand that, so you may have to do that before they get up, which is quite early sometimes. So maybe it's 4 o'clock, and then you take a nap later in the day when they can interrupt your nap. Because if you water down your practice too much, if your practice is a practice like meditation or study or chanting or mantra or something like that, if you allow too many distractions, the world just closes in all the time. It's always closing in. When I sit down to do my practices in the morning, I unplug my telephone. And it's all right. Everybody doesn't have to dial your mind every time they get a whim to do it. It's all right if you're not there. And if they need an emergency, there's the police, the fire department, I'm not critical to anybody's life that way. So, and I find that otherwise you end up justifying, I couldn't do it because of this and because of that. And it's very hard because the world presses in so much to give that appropriate time. So a regular time, not so much time that you end up feeling put upon by your practice, right? And it should be a time when you're reasonably fresh and clear. That would be good. If you have two times for meditation, it's even better. But if you have one time each day when you can slow down and allow yourself to process what's been going on in your life from a spiritual perspective, and just kind of run it through, digest it spiritually, digest it into your consciousness. See how you got trapped during the past day, how you lost it. Just and pretty soon they're like little beads on a thread. And like say 6 in the morning every day, it's a little bead on the thread. And there's a bead 6 and a bead 6 and a bead 6 until pretty soon there is continuity across those beads that puts the rest of your life into perspective from that vantage point. Rather than you being in the world going out into the spirit, the game is to flip it so that you're really in a spiritual consciousness playing in the world. That's really what the process is. The transformation for the initial part is to move the plane, the perspective from where you're sitting. So a discipline but not too violent. Don't get ahead of yourself, and if you feel it's too rigid, stop for a while and try other forms. Keep allowing the eclecticism to go until you feel pulled genuinely into a deeper process.
All right. And now let us meditate again and feel the energy spreading through your body as you breathe in. As you breathe out, feel calmness move through your body. All right. Now let's close with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Any questions, comments, discussion?
I tried the smiling thing, and it seemed burdensome. It
Okay.
seemed it seemed like I was making efforts to keep my mouth, corners of my mouth up, and I couldn't relax totally.
Okay. Just try it at the beginning of the meditation, then meditate and
Okay.
don't worry about it anymore.
All right.
You tried though. That's good. Anything else? Okay. Well, very good. Oh, I have one more thing. This is for Cheryl. I'll be talking Sunday at the Unitarians. I'm not telling Doug about it because he watches it via Zoom.
Uh-huh.
And it'll be on interoception. This is feeling your body, and it really is a process that is, I think, essential for mindfulness.
Hmm.
And so it'll
Okay.
be 10:30 Sunday at the Unitarians, and you can find them at lakechapalauu.org.
Okay.
And I think you would find it of interest.
Alrighty.
And I know you're vaccinated, so you'll be safe. I know you're
Well,
vaccinated because you were travel crossing international borders.
true, true, but this is on Zoom, yes? So it's like remote anyway.
It's right. It could be on Zoom, or you could be there in person. On
Ah,
Zoom,
I see.
on
Okay.
on Zoom, you'll find a link. On the
Ah,
website, you'll find a link.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll check it out.
Very good. Maybe we'll see you Sunday. I will see uh, Doug's head in a little box on Sunday.
Probably,
Okay.
Uh-huh.
probably.
But Carol and I will be at the fellowship.
All right.
Anyway,
Okay.
good. See you next week. Good
Okay.
Bye.
meditations.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Namaste.